Support comes from the Rosa Parks Museum on Troy University's Montgomery campus. Located on the spot of Mrs. Parks' historic 1955 arrest and featuring exhibits that chronicle the history of the Montgomery bus boycott. More information at troy.edu/Rosa Parks.
From Troy Public Radio, this is In Focus, and I'm Carolyn Hutchison. In our two-part story of how the Spanish explorers brought animals to the New World, we rejoin Michael Toman, a historian who is Director of Education and Interpretation for the Florida Public Archaeology Network, and Nicole Grenan, maritime archaeologist. They are co-authors of the children's book, Luna the Cat, in our Storyline book series and the Pause for Animals series. Mike Toman, welcome back to Troy Public Radio.
It's great to be back. Thanks for having me.
Nicole, welcome to you. We are delighted that you can return and talk more about maritime archaeology and your book.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here.
We are celebrating the publication of the book Luna the Cat. Mike, start us off for those who couldn't join us for your first interview.
Yeah, so Luna the Cat is a children's chapter book that Nicole and I wrote, and it's based on all real history and all real archaeology, just told through the perspective of a fictional character in the book who turns out to be a ship's cat that goes along for the ride of this earliest multi-year Spanish settlement in what's now the United States. So it follows that cat's journey just like one of the colonists would have experienced it in real life. So we incorporated all the actual historical events that are talked about in the book, as well as all the artifacts and archaeology that are represented in the book. All of that is all true. So we took some creative license with things like talking cats, but we wanted to write something that would be engaging for younger kids. So the book is really geared towards ages 8 to 12, so you're talking 3rd through 6th grade. But we wanted to try to instill in kids the same passion that we have for history and archaeology because of the stories that it can help us tell about humans and their experience through time.
Nicole, you have the book's cover, Luna the Cat, and you are a cat owner. Does Luna the Cat favor one of your cats?
Well, yes, he certainly does. I have 2 cats at home. They were rescues from Pensacola, not unlike Luna a little bit. And yes, he looks just like one of my cats. Her name is Aggie. A beautiful orange cat, a tabby cat. And what's interesting about the cat's appearance is that it's actually supported by analysis that's been done on the archaeological remains of a cat that was found on one of the Luna 1559 shipwrecks. So not only does it favor my cat, and it's cute there on the cover, but it's actually based on some real evidence that we have. And Dr. John Bratton at the University of West Florida, he's an archaeologist. He has been doing some really incredible collaborative research on analyzing early cat remains, including the ones that were found on a Luna shipwreck.
And Mike, we're talking about Tristan de Luna, very famous Spanish explorer, and his expedition, what was it, 1559?
That's correct. Yeah, in 1559 to 1561. So when they arrived in Pensacola, they were only about a month before a hurricane hit and sank half their fleet. Several of those vessels have been discovered by both state archaeologists as well as underwater archaeologists, like Nicole, for example. The settlement site has been found archaeologically as well, but they held on for about 2 years and then finally decided that they needed to pull the plug on it. And then a couple years later is when the Spanish tried to create another settlement. This time became a permanent settlement, and that was Pedro Menendez in St. Augustine in 1565. So while St. Augustine has a very old history, Pensacola actually predates it by about 6 years and predates Jamestown by almost 50 years.
Nicole, because you are a maritime archaeologist, can you share what it was like? Because you have found remains of some of these Spanish ships.
Yeah, when I was trying to decide what I wanted to do as an archaeologist, I learned about the underwater archaeology or maritime archaeology program at the University of West Florida. So I came here to do that in 2010. We have a really unique archaeology program, an anthropology program, where we do both terrestrial or on land archaeology as well as underwater or maritime archaeology. And so I got to do work right in my backyard in Pensacola, and it was incredible. We have the oldest shipwrecks in Florida, which are these Luna 1559 shipwrecks, right in our bay. The only challenge of working on these sites is that our visibility is not very good, often in Pensacola Bay. So sometimes we can only see 6 inches to a foot in front of our face.
As a maritime archaeologist, what are you finding?
The location of these shipwrecks actually helped their preservation. They are in Pensacola Bay, but near the outflow of several major rivers, which means that after they got wrecked, they were pretty quickly covered up with sand and sediment, which created what we call an anaerobic or a no oxygen environment. And that means that nothing could eat at the remains of the ship itself or any of the artifacts over time. So when we study these sites and we're diving on them as students, as researchers, as faculty, we do find the structure of the ships. We find essentially the material of everyday life. They were coming here to set up a colony. So we find things like olive jar fragments. We find food remains. We find personal items, a huge array of material that comes from these sites. And it all has to do with starting a new life in a brand new place.
How do you cope with sharks and other marine life?
We as archaeologists make so much noise underwater that they mostly stay away from us. But in terms of the wood-boring worms or other things that might damage the materials on the site, once we're finished excavating for the season, we will rebury the units that we have uncovered. And of course, we map everything and record where it is, so we know where everything is, but we actually rebury it to continue its preservation.
What are the laws concerning disturbing a marine archaeological site?
Those sites, they're part of Florida's underwater archaeological preserves, the Florida Panhandle Shipwreck Trail, the Florida Keys Maritime Heritage Trail. These are all sites that are visible and beautiful, full of life, that are interpreted for divers. Sites like the Luna shipwrecks are not great for divers because they're mostly buried. And like you mentioned, there are laws against disturbing submerged state bottomlands. And so we don't encourage people to dig or to remove artifacts because it's illegal, but also because it is an important part of preserving these sites as a whole so that we can learn more about them. And so we encourage people, if they do ever find anything, tell an archaeologist. They can talk to the state of Florida, the state of Alabama, a local university, and we can maybe help record whatever they find.
Mike, how does the story of Luna the cat fit into the overall story of North America?
This really is the beginning of what's now the United States. Although it's Spanish, it's directly related to everything that came after it, leading up to the American Revolutionary War. This site is the oldest multi-year Spanish settlement, what's now United States. It's what brought people from Europe first to this area of Florida. And the Luna expedition, actually, when they were trying to survive over that 2 years, the expedition did cross over to what's now Alabama to try to find food. So they spent some time in Alabama as well. There's a direct connection to that. And so all of our understandings of the landscape and the impacts that it had on the indigenous people who were here and continue to be part of our communities today were directly impacted by all of that. So it holds a great deal of weight in terms of the consequences that all came after it. The book itself, we really wrote it with the idea that the most important part of it was the storytelling. All the history and all of the archaeology from down to what the cat looked like, what the cat was eating, that's all based in science, on DNA analysis, on isotopic analysis that they've done on the bones. So all that was part of the story, and it's important for us to make sure that everything was accurate. But we also wanted it to be something that would relate to kids, to get them interested in history at a young age.
Thank you both so much for joining us for our Storyline book series.
Great.
Thank you.
Our guests were maritime archaeologist Nicole Grunan and historian Mike Thoman, Director of Education and Interpretation for the Florida Public Archaeology Network. Their book is Luna the Cat, about one of the first cats brought to coastal Florida aboard a Spanish galleon in 1559. Thanks for joining us today for In Focus, which is a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Carolyn Hutchison, and this is listener-supported Troy Public Radio.